Is it so dead that I can't receive the gift of salvation? Or is it I'm dead, but I can still make some choices here? That's the real hinge point of not just this passage in Colossians, which is what we're going through here, but an entire section of theology. So what I want to do is take a few minutes and get a little bit tedious here, if you will, if you could bear with me, and just go through a bunch of passages that talk about the lost state. So I already gave you, yes, Ephesians 2, Colossians 2, John 6. There's other places where it talks about being dead in trespasses and sins. That said, we have to look at all the others also in order to make a good systematic theology. Right? Right. So in Colossians 2, how does it describe the lost person? In verse 11, in need of circumcision, in debt, in verse 14. And in Colossians 1, 20 and 21, the enemies are alienated, in need of peace and reconciliation, quote, having made peace through the blood of his cross. So that's 1, 2, 3 things right there in Colossians, in addition to dead and sins. It's talking about in need of circumcision, you're unclean, needing something circumcised, you're in debt, and you're an enemy being alienated. In Ephesians 2, which is one of the main passages that people used for dead and trespasses and sins. Yes, it says that. 2 verses, already gave them to you. But right there in Ephesians 2, what does it also give? It says, Ephesians 2:12, strangers or aliens, quote, excluded from Israel and strangers to the covenant, far away in needing to be brought near. Ephesians 2:13, quote, you who formerly were far off have been brought near. Is separated by a wall. Ephesians 2:14, quote, broke down the middle wall of separation. So that's 3 more that's right there in Ephesians 2. In addition to the 3 we just gave you in Colossians, that's 6 that are given in the same context of the primary passages of dead and trespasses and sins. We're in debt, we're far away, needing to be brought near, we're separated by a wall that needs to get broken down. There's all of these illustrations. Those are just the ones that are in the same context as the passages with dead and trespasses and sins. So both of the chapters that talk about, that are the primary passages about dead and trespasses and sins, also have 6 other descriptions of the state of the lost person. If you look at all the rest of the Bible, at least all the rest of the New Testament, it goes on and on. For example, lost, needing to be found. Luke 15:24, quote, this son of mine was dead and has come to life again. So this is the parable of the prodigal son. So yeah, it uses it right there. Luke 15:24, dead, needing to become alive again. The rest of the same sentence says he was lost and needs to be found. So that's another one, lost, needing to be found. Sick, in need of healing. 1 Peter 2:24, quote, by his wounds you were healed. So that verse in 1 Peter 2:24 quotes Isaiah, and in both the New Testament and the Old, when it says, by his wounds you are healed, the phrase just before that verse and the phrase just after it, both in Old Testament and New, are talking about forgiveness of sins. So when he says, by his wounds you're healed of the sin problem that you have. So sick or wounded, in need of healing. Another one is unclean, in need of purifying or washing. Titus 2:5 says, quote, he saved us through the washing of regeneration. Titus 2:14, Jesus will, quote, purify for himself a people for his possession. Still another one, blind and in the dark, in need of light. In addition to the one we already talked about in Colossians 1:13, there's also Acts 26:18, quote, open their eyes so that they may turn from darkness to light. Another illustration of the lost person is slaves needing freedom. Romans 6:6, quote, we should no longer be slaves to sin. Another one, in debt. Matthew 18, verse 23 to 35 is the parable of the wicked servant, that he forgave them forgave the servant this vast, huge quantity of money, and then the servant goes out and doesn't forgive his neighbor. Well, the forgiveness of the huge debt is a symbol of the sin debt being forgiven. It also had it right here in Colossians. Thirsty, in need of a drink, John 7:37. If anyone is thirsty, let him come to me and drink. Hungry, John 6:35, quote, I am the bread of life.